Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, March 27th, 2023. That's right. We're 4 days away from the end of March already. And as I mentioned, let's talk about cars and goals. And I know that I have some goals that I have to accomplish within the next 3 weeks or so. And that big goal is getting the Bronco in paint. So I know you've been following along, watching the videos and stuff like that, and probably seeing the pictures and everything on Facebook or Instagram or wherever. And it's coming along. It is coming along, and I'm pretty happy with how things are turning out at the moment. Uh, but there's always room for error, right? You never know, and you have to kind of plan or hopefully plan ahead for that sort of thing. So as you've seen, I did spray the engine bay with the Raptor bedliner material, and that had a couple little challenges to it. I know that the gun that was provided with the kit is really hard to clean, and it did mention you could use a regular spray gun to spray this stuff through. I really didn't want to risk that. I don't like the idea of using. Well, I don't have the greatest spray guns in the world, but I have some decent spray guns. I don't necessarily want to take the chance on ruining one of those in that process. However, there's always room for improvement, and I may consider trying to do that later on. I don't know yet, but for now, I'm happy with the results. So I'm glad you've all been keeping up with everything that's going on with the channel and of course Facebook and all that stuff. I will say, if you haven't already noticed, I do have some sort of congestion coming off of, I don't know, some sort of grandchild induced head cold or something, and it's not bad. It's rougher in the mornings, but I can hear it already in my voice that I'm not sounding that great. So we'll see how this goes tonight. See how far I can get into the what we're doing. But glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. So first one in early on was Rick Gain. He was here at 5:40. Nasty rainy day in New Jersey. Looking forward to some good car talk. Hope everybody's doing well. Glad you're here, Rick. Yes, let's continue that conversation briefly. Um, we all know there was, I think we all know there were some tremendous storms to the west of us and south, um, southwest. Let's put it that way. So Mississippi, I know, had some really bad weather come through, and for the last couple days, we have had rain and really, really violent thunderstorms. I mean, when you're laying there in bed and you have a house that's on a slab that is basically brick, and you can feel the house shake from the thunder. That's a powerful, powerful storm. And I know there were some high winds and stuff here, but nothing like they experienced. I believe it was in Mississippi where they had stuff wiped out. One story I saw today was some restaurant in I guess a smaller town, that they heard the storm coming, and the owners got into their freezer with, I don't know if they said it was 8 employees, got into their freezer, locked the door, shut the door, and that was the only thing left after the storm hit. Pretty amazing story. Just scary stuff. So hope everybody uh, wasn't affected by it much. I know that there's damage here in Georgia as well, but let's just hope that the people that I know there was loss of life, and that's just always a struggle, and I feel bad for those people. Hopefully, there's not more that were added to that list by afterwards. So anyway, it's been some really bad weather here. Steve Grimes, evening gang. It may be spring. Yeah, yes, yeah. March was going out like a lion, that's for sure. So yeah, I think spring is should be here now, definitely. Terry Keithley, evening all and Barry, 55 here today in West Central Illinois. Please hit the like and thumbs up. Thank you kindly. Yes, by all means, hit that thumbs up button. And I will point out as well, my camera's a little bit crooked, drives me crazy. If you have a question or subject matter you want to bring up, you're welcome to do it. I know that I have this currently set for subscribers only. So if somebody is watching and they want to make a comment or something like that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and then you can make a comment as well and be part of the conversation. But I'm open to whatever y'all want to bring up and talk about. So glad you're here, Terry. Robert checking in, evening all. Beautiful weekend here, mid 70s and low humidity. One of those rare perfect days here, and that is in Texas. So I would agree. That sounds fantastic. And that's why I was taking advantage of the weather we had Thursday and Friday. That's why I jumped on getting that U-Pole Raptor sprayed, because it had to be, a certain temperature, and that worked out great. It worked out really well for that process. Glad you're here. Dave Conville, good evening all. Hopefully the weather has calmed down a bit there. Yes, it is. I mean, there's some clouds in the sky, but it's nice and sunny, and it's beautiful out at the moment. But it was rough last night, I can tell you that. Crash Rider from Southern Indiana, greetings to everyone. Hope the Duke didn't sustain any storm damage this past week. Be sure to hit the like button. Nice progress on the Bronco. Thank you, Crash Rider. Yes, no damage here that I know of. That within our neighborhood or anything like that. So, Roger checking in from next door. Glad you're here, Raj. Give you a bell. Troy. Good evening, my friends. I had a good week and hope you did too. Eastern Georgia got a little rain and some thunder, but nothing bad. Yeah, it was more violent on this side. We definitely had some rain and thunder. I mean, it was shaking the house, like I said. Glad you're here, Troy. I don't know if I gave you a bell, so I'll give you an extra one. Bob Shoemaker, good evening all from Oklahoma, where everything is okay, I hope. Glad you're here, Bob. Dawn's Manufactory. Hello, folks. Still freezing at night, 40 to 50 degrees during the day. Had snow a couple days ago. No, I don't want that. Glad you're here, Dawn. And he also is still testing positive for COVID. Wife is very sick. Epoxy primer today. Okay, well, at least you got some epoxy going. That's good. Sorry that you're still testing positive, and sorry to hear your wife is very sick. Hope she recovers from that soon. Chris Greenaway got to go to work. Well, that's how it is. But I'm glad you checked in. Got to pay the bills, right? Got to pay the bills. Jerry checking in. Howdy, Barry. Howdy, y'all. Cold and starting to snow a bit in Buffalo. Funny how Robert can think of it being a rare nice day in Texas when I am not there. So you're saying it was more than just the weather. It's a nice day for a reason, he says. Tommy checking in. Busted Knuckle Garage, Birmingham. Hope everyone is well. Hope you didn't get any damage over there. I'm sure the storm rolled past Birmingham, I would assume, but hope everything is good to go. And Jerry says, shush. Steve Harris, great job. Thank you, Steve. Harvey checking in. Hi, Barry, and happy soggy Monday from New Jersey. Yeah, it's, what's funny is our yard, or my yard in particular, there's a low spot towards the front, and when we have tons and tons of rain, I have a small, very shallow pond. But I also have the same thing in the back. There's an area where it collects. So I know this morning I happened to look out and I saw that there was a shallow pond in my front yard, but all that is past now. Wild Bill, hello, Barry. Cheers from Arizona. Glad you're here, Wild Bill. Trying to look at your thumbnail there. Terry Keithley, how are the cats doing? Betty wants to know. Well, I had an email from Terry and Betty, and they said that to stay safe from the storm, we had to sacrifice one of the cats. So I did what I had to do, and it seemed to work. So thank you for that, Terry. Just kidding. The cats are fine. Yeah, unfortunately. Wild Bill going next week to get a 77 F-250 4x4 460 auto. Wow. And he says long bed. That is a beastly truck. 460 auto. That'll pass everything but a gas station, right? Yeah. That's a tank. Good deal. Dave Tyson, good evening, all. Glad you're here, Dave. Tommy says, interrupted my sleep all night, but no damage. That's good. Yeah, it was violent. Troy Justice, subject, I'm done with Dynacorn. The last three parts I bought from them have been garbage. I had to do a lot of reshaping and cutting on the inner fender skirt. You're talking about the aprons? I guess. Yeah, I mean, okay. I'm with you. I can't say that any of them are going to be perfect. And I don't know where Dynacorn is ranking currently with their products. I know we have a bunch of stuff coming in for the Mach 1 project, and they're kind of the, I guess, unfortunately, you're stuck with some things you just can't get anywhere else. Put it that way. We have run into an issue where one of the products was the quarter panels that CJ Pony says were made by Dynacorn, and apparently, after talking with the Dynacorn dealer, they're not. So I don't know where they get their information. But yeah, I don't know what the I think you said there you got that the part I got from MPD fits much better for less money. Okay. So are you talking about an apron? When you say inner fender skirt, I assume you're talking about the aprons. I don't know. Let me know what you're referring to. Lynn, hello all. Finally, a nice day in Western PA. Got to take 67 for a spin. Spring might be on its way. Yeah, I think it's definitely here. It's definitely here. And Bill's agreeing with me on it passes everything but a gas station, I'm sure. Okay, so the apron. See, I know I've run into issues in the past with aprons that I had bought. One was, let's see, I ordered a part, I think it was from CJ Pony, and it came in as a Spectrum part. Spectrum, I don't know if they, from what I remember of Spectrum, they basically would have a raw metal part, and they would do like a cutout of it with a plasma cutter. I've received a bunch of parts like that, and one of them was the apron, and like it's just rough cut to the dimension, and then when you get it, I had to I think it was the part I used on Jade actually. I had to reshape that thing, had to hammer it all up and square it up and trim it and all sorts of things, and so Spectra Premium. So I don't know if they're still selling them that way, where they don't have anything on them but oil, which is always fun. You get a part out and it's got just oil all over it. So, sometimes you order something and you hope that it's a good product and it turns out it's not. Now I don't know what the parts were. The apron, if the one from NPD is made somewhere else, I know a lot of these parts they share the same plant. So they'll come out, this one's, Dynacorn, this one's blah, 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 this one's CJ Pony Premium. They just put a different name on them. So I don't know how many people are out there making the aprons, if it's just one company and then everybody gets it or what. But I'm with you on the fitting problems. I really am. Rick Stevenson. Glad you're here, Rick. Salute. Gotta have the coffee. Yeah, Robert pointed out Spectra Premium. Her Scrambler, good evening. Anybody buy a Chinese aluminum radiator with electric fans off eBay? Any good? I didn't buy one. I had one offered to me. Now, it was, I don't even know what the brand was. I put one in Jade, and it had dual electric fans on it. I ended up adding, I think I added my own relays. Is that right? To have them function the way I wanted. It seems to work. It's doing its job, but I don't know if it's any better than any of the other ones. I know I had to do some customizing to make it fit because it was a little bit taller than what would have been the normal height. So I had to adjust down where the mount points were. Now I didn't change anything structurally. I unbolted the little brackets, and think I removed the thick gaskets and put a thin gasket underneath the radiator so it sat down further, and that was so the radiator cap would clear. So that was a concern. I don't remember which company it was. If you look at my Jade videos, you could probably find the radiator one in there. But it worked. That's all I can tell you. It worked. Good question. BDS. I wonder how many actual sheet metal suppliers there are. I imagine they are all the same and are rebranded, perhaps quality changes with tooling, wear, or raw material changes. I mean, I don't think there's that many. If there's 2 or 3 that are making these parts, I'd be amazed. Uh, you know, we've talked about this a couple times where they, um, what is it? What's the name of the company, Robert? The GT, whatever it is. I can't remember the name. Something GT, where everybody gets their parts from them and then puts their name on it. I think is what we discussed. So I don't think there's that many. Troy, for what they charge, you would think you would be getting a better quality part, but no. As a note, I did get them from CJ, so they may not be Dynacorn. Okay, now that's the thing. These they say that, hey, these are made by Dynacorn. Well, are they really? Are they really? I don't know. I know that we've run into that with these quarter panels. CJ Broadcast them, I believe, is saying these are Dynacorn parts or made by Dynacorn for CJ, and it's their premium part, right? But when it comes down to it, the quarters, it's not even shaped right. To me, the quarter pieces for the Mach 1, the ones we have currently, the 80% quarter, not the full quarter, the 80%, it's almost like an overlay piece. Like it's a patch panel that you would just slide over your damage, weld it on, and Bondo it down and say, okay, we're done, rather than a true fitted piece. So we didn't know that. And then when we ordered parts, CJ's like, yep, these are made exactly like this, and blah, 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 and Dynacorn, and yeah, right. They were lying. They were lying. Lindy can't go wrong with CJ Pony. They never let me down. Well, I mean, on one hand, I can agree with you. On the other hand, I can't, because I've had one of the biggest things I've run into, and part of it is the shipping process. We all know that, okay, let's just put it at number one, worst delivery service to me is the USPS. I've had so many things smashed and damaged and shoved in my mailbox. They're holding first place. But number two is FedEx. Sorry, my nose is bothering me. FedEx, it's like they go out of their way to try to damage stuff. And I have ordered parts specifically from CJ Pony. Years ago, I ordered some doors, and I had to get the same door 3 times. Now, the problem was more with the packaging, because they had put it in a box that was like designed to fit the door. There was no padding, there was no bubble wrap. It was just, whoosh, here it is. And so FedEx gets a hold of that, and they're like kicking it across the yard, hoping that it lands in the right yard. And it had dents all over it. It had the corners bent, all that stuff. And finally, the third door, I said, I'll just have to fix this one. I can't keep getting this door over and over and over. So in that respect, they did fulfill the order. They kept sending me, said, send this one back, we'll send you another one, blah, blah, blah. And that's great. But if they are touting that they have the best parts and they call them their premium, and they don't fit, or they're not as good as, say, Dynacorn or whatever, I don't like that. I don't think that's fair to us. And so here we're talking about Muscle Car GT is the biggest factory. Seem to have the best parts. they make most of the Dynacorn parts. So thank you, Robert. I knew there was a GT in there somewhere. Um, yeah, and we've all run into it. We all run into it. It's always got, they always have issues. Michael Pagliarini. Yes, my rear floor pan was just oil coated. Yep. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I get it. It's a cost saving measure for them. They don't have to powder coat it or EDP, whatever EDP coat it. Um, so I get it. It's just but then you have to deal with getting it all clean and all that stuff. 67 Mustang Coupe restoration. I bought a Dynacorn front right apron from Mustangs Unlimited a few years back, and it had wrinkles all over it, like the sheet came loose during stamping. Unfortunately, MU went bust before I opened the box. Well, I had some of those as well, and I think that's the way they're stamped, or that's the way. I mean, that's just the way they were stamped. Like it didn't slip. It's it's wrinkled that way. So I don't know if they just had a bad form or what, but I did have that same situation. Nick is checking in. Hello, Nick. Been following your stuff on Instagram. Looks like you're customizing the Mustang. Cal Custom, as they say. If anybody remembers Cal Custom, sorry, I may be a generation out with Cal Custom. So I've been watching now. Busted Knuckle Garage, struggling with 60 Mustang rear frame rail repair sections. When the reference holes line up, the shackle mounts don't line up, and the end doesn't reach the rear support. The difference is a quarter inch. Um, yeah, let's see. So when the reference holes line up, you're talking about the jig holes in the floor, like in the back. You're talking about the jig hole that's in front of the shackle mount point, because I don't know if that's your only reference, but you're saying that shackle mounts don't line up and the end doesn't reach the rear support. So if you have a reference measurement, a lot of times I don't know that I want to trust the jig hole thing, uh, because I would rather get a zero measurement from somewhere forward that I know I can trust when I remeasure again. I measure from that point, basically a datum point, we would call it, and come back to the center line of where the shackle was. I would trust that more than relying on the jig hole. And you're saying if it's a quarter inch off, um, you know, I don't know which. I mean, obviously there's factors involved. I want the shackle mount more than anything in the right spot. And if I have to adjust later to take care of that, then I will. So, um, hope that gives you some help. I don't know, but that's kind of how I deal with that stuff. Good question. Thank you, Tommy. Harvey is saying, Barry, I remember your rear valance video on Jade about 4 different brands. Yeah, yeah, I know that. I'm trying to remember if it was on Jade or Brooklyn Pony. I don't remember now. Maybe it was Jade. I know I did. I tried like 2 or 3 different panels. I don't remember. I've done so many of these things. It's like, well, maybe so, but I'll take your word for it. My nose is all clogged up. Denny Alvey, good evening from Paducah, Kentucky. Glad you're here, Denny. Um, Tommy says each total difference is about half an inch. That's too much. That's too much. Rick Gain, CJ Pony, no. NPD, yes. CJ screws over too many people. Well, thank you, Rick. Here, Tommy. Robert says, Tommy, ignore the factory alignment hole. Go by making the shackle mount hole, etc. line up. Yes, I agree. Rick Stevenson, when I first started shipping stuff, I was told to imagine what you were shipping being thrown across the room. Yes. Valid. It's funny. Back when we had the body shop, we would we ordered all kinds of parts, right? I mean, all the manufacturers, and a lot of times we could not, if we could get, depending on what we were working on, if we could get aftermarket parts that worked, then that was okay. If we had to use junkyard parts, which a lot of times you were further ahead because you knew that that came from a factory car, so that would work. But a lot of times we had to order parts for like Kias or Hyundai's, whatever. And at the time, there wasn't many to get from, like aftermarket or whatever. And I can tell you that we would get these parts in. It would be a door, and literally, they would just take a piece of cardboard and wrap it through the door, through the window opening, wrap it around the door, and just put some tape on the bottom. So you had this thin layer of cardboard that went around the outer skin and the inner structure of the door. And we would get these things, and they'd be beat to death. And we couldn't even believe they would bring them to us. They were just so damaged. And finally, one day, we started asking about it, and I said, "Hey, what's going on with this? Why are we getting all these damaged parts?" And the delivery guy or whatever said, "Well, a lot of it is the truck driver. The parts. What happened was, the truck driver would show up early to the dealership, and nobody would be there to help him unload the parts, and he would get mad. And so what he would do, he would just do that, what Rick is saying. He would just take the parts and just chuck them off the back of the truck. He didn't care where they landed, what they landed on. He would just throw them as far as he could and have a pile of parts. He'd throw the invoice out or whatever and drive off. Yeah. And I'm like, how is this guy even employed as a truck driver? I don't get it. But that's why we were getting so many damaged parts. The truck driver was just throwing the parts out onto the concrete. Lynn, Stangaholics out of California has quality fiberglass parts. I'm thinking about getting a rear deck lid with a spoiler on. Um, I can't say good or bad as to whether their products are good or bad. I know that I've run into uh, people that have put those on cars, and then they show up at our body shop and they say, "Why doesn't this fit? What is wrong?" And we looked at it and we go like, "Well, there's so much wrong. We're basically going to have to like cut it in half and start over." So I can't say for sure the quality of their products. If they have good reviews and everything, that would sound like a good option. But I don't. And of course, the stuff I may have used may have been from old molds or some junk that was just sold to somebody and they put it on their car hoping it would fit. Uh, BDS. Everyone has damaged parts in shipping. You think catch the hint and learn how to package it. You're right. You're right. Or use a better shipper. I know that like the boxes I showed this previously. The boxes we got these quarter skins in, they were barely held together after FedEx did everything they could to bust them up. And in fact, they had been opened, and they wrapped tape around them to try to close them up because the parts were coming out of the boxes. Um, I've had a much better luck with UPS. I must say that. Or I would say if you want to get it delivered, it seems like Amazon does probably the better job out of anybody. I don't. We have so much stuff we get through Amazon. It all shows up. The box isn't even. There's not even a nick in the box. You know. So I don't know. But I try to avoid FedEx whenever I can. Her Scrambler and good luck getting a hold of someone at FedEx. Yes. Been down that road. Harvey, your Valance video on Jay, there were 4 brands that all had the exact same problem. The best was CJ Classic. It appeared to come from a different stamping. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I can't go back while we're doing this and look at that stuff. So thank you, Harvey. Because I know I've done some comparison videos on that car. When I was putting it together, I showed different fenders. I don't know where I got those valance panels from specifically. If I had an original and the other ones, I don't know. I really don't remember. But anyway, thank you for that. Steve's Money Pit. Hello, Barry and group from snowy Wisconsin. Glad you're having the snow and we don't. Just saying. You can have all the snow. You can have my snow. Everybody, all the snow in Georgia. You can have it all. Tommy says yes. Okay. I guess I can't remember where we were at with that, Tommy. Sorry. I know we're talking about your frame rails, but Nick, yeah, I wasn't expecting having to do that, but it actually makes the car look a little meaner. So that's nice. But I'm going to be in the 30K range for the bodywork now. I'm freaking out a little. Okay. Okay. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Wish I could have helped you with that. Larry, hi guys from Flyover, Nebraska. The Sandhills cranes are thick this year. Okay. Glad you're here, Larry. Nick, well, fiberglass work. Actually, I wish I had been more confident in doing that part myself. Okay. Oh, okay. So Tommy sent me a picture. Let's see. Let me see if I can get this. Wait a minute. Oh, it's a PDF. I don't know if I can save that as a picture or not. It may not let me open that. It shows up as a PDF. Yeah, I can't use that on here. So you have a drawing of where things are off, and I get that. Um, I see what you're talking about. I'd focus on the shackle being in the right spot. So I can't open that and show that on the screen. It's a PDF file. Okay. Let's see. That one kid. How's it going? It's going pretty well. I hope everything is well for you. Here's a bell for you. Glad you're here. Richard. Roar. Glad you're here, Richard. And evening all. Get a bell. That one kid, and me and my father found a 6'7" Pontiac Firebird, and the older people that own it does not know its full value, and he told us they would sell it to us for only $1,000. Do you think I should buy it? Well, probably, but what I've run into, and this is just me, I run into situations like that, not necessarily a Firebird, but I have had situations where I had older people that had a car that they wanted to sell it, and they really didn't know what it was worth, and they didn't research it, anything like that. So when they offered me their car and they said they wanted this amount of money for it, I said, I can't do that. I'm going to give you this amount of money for it, if that's okay. And they were like, but that's more than double what I was asking. And I said, that's because it's worth that. So, I mean, it's nice if they're just, I mean, and I'm just saying, if it's worth more than $1,000, if the car is worth $10,000, I don't know. Just me personally, I'd have a hard time buying it from them for $1,000 and not. I'd have to give them more money for it. Just saying, because if it's in great shape and all that sort of thing, we all know it's worth more than that. But if that's all they want for it and they say just take it, then that's another story. That's but I've run into that situation. Doyle on my driver's side floor panel came with no box at all, just packaging tape on edges to keep delivery driver from cutting himself. I complained to no avail from the parts place. Okay. I don't know if you checked in already, Doyle, but I'll give you another bell. Thank you for that. Yeah, I've received parts like that that had just nothing on it. I mean, basically, I had a bumper custom made one time. I was working on a Jeep for somebody at the body shop. It was a Cherokee, and this guy would take orders. He'd say, "What do you need?" And I'd tell him, and basically, it was a nice. I forget what we had it made out of, but it was a nice plate steel, and it had a little brush guard on the front of it. And he didn't even paint this thing. He just made it to where it would fit the Jeep. And I don't even think he did anything more than tape a letterhead to it, like send it to this address, and dropped it off. And so that thing just got tossed around before it made it to us. Now, thankfully, it was pretty darn tough and didn't hurt anything. But I've seen stuff like that. So, yeah. Troy, due to shipping damage, I now drive down to NPD in Florida and pick up the parts. Also, the gas is less than the shipping, and my wife gets a road trip. Well, that's a great idea. Next time I'll give you a list, and you can just, come on over here and drop it off. That one kid, and the Firebird is in really good shape and was driven into the barn almost 35 years ago as he bought off the market when he first bought it and shut it off ever since. Yeah, yeah. I'd have to give them, I'd have to give them more money for it. I couldn't live with myself and do that. If they, if that was the case, for sure, I would have to give them more money than that. Rick Stevenson, Troy, I'm lucky that MPT is only about an hour away from me. That would be nice. Tommy says he will resend. Okay. Let me see if this. Okay. Well, that's just a PNG file. I don't know if I can open that one either. Let me try it. Maybe. Maybe. Okay, so here's what Tommy has sent us. And this is what he's showing with his frame rail situation. So based on what I'm seeing here, the original rear frame rail, and measuring from the back to the front edge of the jig hole or reference hole, looks like 7 3/4 of an inch, and then from that same front edge to the front of the shackle is 250, and then in the rear section it's 3 1/4. And the other one, the replacement, okay, it's showing the difference of 3 inches on the back. So essentially, if I'm looking at this, I would not use a reference hole. I would slide it back, get the shackle points in the same spot, get the contact point in the back the same, and just ignore the reference hole. Or if you really want to focus on it, weld it shut and drill a new one. I mean, there's ways to modify that, and it's unfortunate that if they don't have the holes in the right place, it's not going to help you. And I don't know if you've already shortened that frame rail on the front, if you're sectioning it in, if you've already cut it or not. So that's what I would probably do. Is make it go to the back, get the shackle in the right spot, and don't worry about that hole. It's not going to help you. Let's see. Go back up here a little bit. Where are we at? Okay. Richard, I do not think the one kid is being truthful, but if he is, they should tell the couple its value, yet still offer to buy it. I agree. Jonathan, any advice on how to title an aftermarket early Bronco frame, or they come with titles? Well, that's a good question. The it depends on the state you live in. So in Georgia, we don't have to have a title. You just have to have a VIN number, and then you can have a bill of sale. Now, if you're in a state that requires a title, that's a different story. The other thing you can do is a thing you can Google this. Look up Vermont loophole. If you really want to try to get a title for this, look up Vermont loophole. The state of Vermont will do a title if you have documented bill of sale paperwork, whatever. They will issue you a Vermont title that then you can transfer to your state. So that's like the only option I know of, unless there's some sort of bonded title. I don't know anything how that works, but that's how I can tell you. Now you're saying, oh wait, let me back it up a second. How to title an aftermarket early Bronco frame? They should come with some sort of paperwork. They should. I don't know for sure. The VIN number is stamped on the frame rail, and it's also on the glove box. So a lot of people that are into the Broncos, that's their focus, is having that VIN number on the frame, and then the body is secondary because you can just put the glove box on anything, right? So if you're buying that, I'm only assuming that they give you some sort of a serial number. It may not actually be a VIN number. I assume they give you some sort of serial number, but I don't know for sure. Sorry if I've got confused on that one. That one kid, the 67 Pontiac Firebird, is red. Okay. Rick, you're a good man, Barry. I cannot take advantage of an elderly couple either. I would not encourage anybody else to do that either. No, it just doesn't. It's one of those things that my friend Henry would say. He's from Finland, and he has an expression, and a lot of times we'll talk about something, fixing a part or repairing something, and he wants it done a certain way, and I'll tell him, Henry, you're beating yourself to death over something minor, and he said, yeah, but when I put my head on the pillow at night, I can sleep. I get that, and that's kind of how I would approach that situation. If you could do that to that couple and then sleep well at night, you're a better person. Well, maybe I said maybe not a better person, but you're a different person than I am. Danny Alves scored a front set of conies with the winged logo at a local swap meet, still in the box from a Chevy guy. Correct, for 65 to 70 Mustang, $30. That's a good deal. BDS, a Belfaberry. Oh, well, thank you. Ed says, let's all give Barry a thumbs up. Yes. Thank you, Ed. Lynn, you would have to pick up sheet metal parts. Nobody cares about the parts as much as you do. Yeah. Oh, I know. That's why I would go to Mustangs Unlimited and hand pick everything I wanted. Say, oh, nope, that's no good. Yep, that one I want. Of course, they're gone. Tommy's, thanks. Sounds good. Yes. Yeah, focus on the important parts of that shackle. That's what I would stick with. Aaron, there's also local ways to do replacement titles when you go through the courts, and often have to do things like place ads in the newspaper. Okay, thank you, Aaron. I have heard of that and have not had to try that. Crash Writer. Sorry, I must commend you on your opinion of payment amount for the Firebird. It would only be right to offer an appropriate amount depending on condition. I agree. I mean, I just can't do that. I mean, I just can't. I just can't do that. I've had situations where I know people, I've talked about this before. My son has a friend whose mom has, I don't know if it's a 70 or 71 CUDA, right? That's sitting in a garage. And they don't know what to do with it, apparently. And I haven't gotten any more feedback on it since I talked about it like a year ago. But I told my son to tell his friend, let me help. Like, if you want to sell this thing, let me do some research on it, and I will tell you what it's worth. I will help you figure that out. But I have never gotten any more feedback on that because it's, I don't know. It's just like the right thing to do. I had a situation where somebody was selling a Mustang, and somebody who wanted to buy it contacted me and said, "Hey, would you go look at this?" And they paid me to go look at it, which is fine. I appreciated that. It was out of my way, so I went and looked at it, and they wanted their opinion on it. Now, I could have just sat there and taken his money and said, "Yeah, go ahead. It's a great car. Build it." No, I looked the car over hard, like I would any project that I want to take on, and I told him exactly what was wrong with it and what it needed, and it was a rough car, and he said, "Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear." And he said, I'm not gonna pursue that car," so he passed on it. But that's I don't know, kind of how you do things. Let's see. Rick Stevenson on the Bronco frame. I believe it comes with a certificate of origin. That sounds accurate. Robert says, with a certificate of origin, some states will register it as a replica and they will generate a VIN number for it. So there you go. Two good answers. Crash Rider, two bells and two thumbs up for the Duke. I don't know where the Duke came from, but thank you, Crash Rider. Um, Jonathan, as you can tell, I'm a big guy and I want to build a Bronco in half cab version. I know I'm not fitting in a standard version. Thoughts of extending the top and moving the bulkhead. Thank you. Ooh, that that would be tough. Um, you talking if you're saying the bulkhead, are you talking about the firewall or are you talking about the back of the half cab or whatever? Because I mean, you're not going to move that firewall forward. That's not going to happen. If you're going to move the back of the cab, if you're referring to that as the bulkhead, then yeah, you'd have to consider what you'd have to stretch, as in the door opening, um, how that's going to play out. Yeah, that would be a challenge. The alternative may be that you turn it into a extended cab. So if you have a cab version, I've seen people do this where they'll move the back of the cab aft, and then they take it like a skin, let's say of a door, and they graft it into that section that they just moved back, and they put a little window behind what would be the driver's door. It'd be a little more challenging maybe to get in and out of, but it would give you that stretch back to get you away from the steering wheel. So that might be an option to consider as well. I have not seen one done that way that I can think of, but that's kind of where I'd see it. That would have to do something like that. Richard, I purchased many cheap cars over the years, but the owners either knew the value or they were selling it as in-op. Yes, I mean I've done that too. I bought cars that were non-running, needed a bunch of work, um, and had to have extensive stuff done to them, and but it wasn't like some classic car. It was a more modern car that was. They just like wanted it out of the driveway. They were moving and said, "I just get it out of here. I can't. I want to scrap it if nothing else." And in these other situations, it was older people who had a car they had forever, and they were like, "Hey, you know, I'll practically give it to you." And I'm like, "No, I can't do that. Can't do that." Rick, if Firebird is worth 1,000, that Barracuda must be at least 1,200. Yeah, at least. Steve's Money Pit. I used to sell new gas tanks, and UPS would destroy them and not cover insurance. They would say not packed good. They shipped undamaged through multiple shippers from Canada, so I would only ship FedEx. Okay. John says back of the half cab. Yes. Yeah, I mean that's an option, to be able to slide that section back. the tricky part, maybe even, I haven't looked hard at the half cab stuff, so I don't know how they're assembled and what type of movement would have to be created. I know that what is it, Artec Fabrications builds crew cab Chevy trucks, like old 72 model Chevy trucks. And they take what, if you look at I'll just give you an example here. So you have a standard cab pickup truck, and then you have a Suburban in a 72, 67, 72. You would have had a three-door Suburban. Woohoo! Everybody makes a big deal. Is that a three-door? Yeah, they were all three doors. Every Suburban built in that time period was a three-door Suburban. So you had an access, regular door on the right rear, but the left side didn't have a door. So like Artec, they are now fabricating the door and everything as an assembly. My point being, there are ways to make that happen. There are ways to create that distance structurally. So what would it involve? I don't know. I'd have to look pretty hard at a half cab and see what the limitations are. But you're going to have to stretch something, and it may be moving that back half back and then creating something to make that look better. But as Nick was saying here, would probably be better to lower the floor pan so it doesn't look odd. Maybe that would be difficult. That would be a difficult thing to do. Because I know that in looking at the Bronco, it has a weird floor pan anyway. Like one side, how is it? I'm trying to remember how it's like one side shorter than the other or something. I can't remember how it looks right now. But yeah, there's a kind of a weird transition in the floor pan. Jonathan, thank you for all you do. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Give you an extra bell. Troy, wouldn't you have to expend the frame on the Bronco? You would just be stretching the body. Well, that's kind of what I think he's implying. Leave the frame alone, and on the half cab truck, move just the cab, the back half of the cab, move it aft. Now, again, the thing is, what do you end up with? Like if you look at the roof, you have to stretch the roof to make it fit where the back of the cab fits. If you stretch the roof, then you have to figure out what to do with the door. One alternative would be to move the B-pillar back with the bulkhead by two sets of doors. I mean, if you really want to get into it, by two sets of doors and stretch one door onto the other. Like, cut it and take the front half of one door and the back half of the other door to the distance you want. Maybe you're adding 6 inches. You could do that. Then you got to stretch your door panel, and you also have to have glass made for it because although the Bronco has flat glass, that might actually work. That might actually work. Anyway, Richard, lowering the pan is not going to get legroom or further from the steering wheel. That is true. That is true. Jonathan, driver's side is high due to extra fuel tank. There you go. I knew there was something weird because there's not a lot of room underneath that once you start adding in all the components. Nick, actually, yes, it would because you can angle the seat cushion up a little and bend the knees so they're still supported. Yeah, but like we just pointed out, the driver's side is high due to the extra fuel tank. It's underneath it's like underneath the driver's seat. So it's not like the cars. The cars are a little more complicated. Geometry, no geometry here. Can't do that. And Richard's geometry does not cover ride quality, especially for a taller guy. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I've never had that issue, I don't think. But I know people that are tall and struggle to get in out of certain vehicles. And but I can almost envision that now that you bring that up because the The quarters could stay where they're at. Uh, I mean, it could be done. Yeah, I mean, it could be done. It could be done. Jonathan, need the ability to lean the seat back more. I had a 68, but I was young and hadn't started growing yet. I know I had to lower the. I know I'd have to lower the floor because if I don't, I'll still be looking at the windshield frame. Well, maybe you just need some of those really low plastic seats. I guess you have to do something else with the fuel tank then. I guess. Uh, Brady Hermanson. On our 68 California Special, the passenger side rocker is damaged and looks like it's been replaced in the past. Would it be better to fix or replace the rocker? Uh, well, that's a tough question because I don't know what it looks like. I've replaced, I don't know if I think, I don't know if I did the full rocker panel on a 68 fastback or if I sectioned it in. I think I sectioned it because it was damaged. That was the drag car um, that I showed previously. And I don't know if I have a good picture of that. Yeah, sort of. It doesn't really show on that car. Whoops. Um, you can just barely see on the bottom there. I don't know if I replaced the full rocker or not. The um, that car had to custom make the wheel openings, so I had to move the rocker, cut it forward. I think 3 or 4 inches to make room for the 31-inch tires that were under it. Right there. That was fun. That was a good challenge. And that's what it looked like after everything was done. So I know on the passenger side, I cut off the rocker panel and refabricated the structure where it ends. And on the driver's side, I had to actually cut out part of it. I don't remember what all I had to do. I know I had to cut out a piece though. Um, so if what do we say here? They sectioned the front of the rocker. There isn't any rust. Okay, so when you say section, are you talking about the front underneath the door, that part? Because there is an overlap there, if I remember correctly. There is the actual rocker panel, and then there's the curved section in the front. I think those overlap. I don't think that's one piece. I'll just take a look at the 69 here quick. Yeah, so that's how that's created. So I don't know where they sectioned it, but there is that front section that has a slight curve to it, and the main rocker overlaps that piece. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to or not. Um, so okay, so it's sectioned under the door. Well, uh, it's going to be up to you on that one. Like if it's solid and it is it shaped correctly? Is it welded nice? Is it just butted together? Did they put a sleeve on the inside? Maybe I don't. It's hard to judge all that. If it's got good transitions and it's not causing any problems, I don't know that I'd change it. Other than if you just want to know that it's a solid piece all the way through. So um, I guess that's the way you look at it. Is it worth it, or is it just like something to again put your head on a pillow and sleep at night, right? So you have to think of it that way, I guess. Um, Good question, by the way, and thank you for being here, Brady. Sorry, didn't get that bell to you quick enough. Jonathan, you can't have the auxiliary tank, so no problems. Okay, well that takes care of that. And Nick says, as a fellow big guy, if you lower down, your gut gets lower away from the steering wheel since your chest is usually smaller. I can't explain it better, but it works. Yeah, I know what you're saying. So you have to have visuals of all that. I get it. I get what you're saying. And Nick says the tank would be a better though. Yeah, but he said the tank, he just can't have the auxiliary tank. So BDS. Speaking of fastbacks, my '67 has your name on it still. Okay. I wish I had more people working with me or for me or whatever. I could stay full of Mustangs in here. Donnie Williams, greetings everyone from your cougar cousin. I think I have a cousin that's a cougar. Brady says thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean it's just you have to just make a judgment on it. Is it worth it? Kind of way you look at it. Um, we were talking about the Bronco and this half cab deal and all that stuff. And I've been working on trying to get the in this case the hood and the cowl prepped for paint. So what I'm looking at doing, I want to paint those parts, and then I can get the hood out of the paint booth, and that gives me room for other stuff like the tailgate. But one thing I wanted to, I'll show you this because it worked out. I think it's going to work out really cool. Let me move this. So I had this little cart, and it had two casters and two straight wheels on it, and it was hard to move around. So I went to the local Harbor Freight, and I picked up four little casters, and now this thing just glides around all by itself. But I have to be careful with that. So you already know that I made this assembly to hold the tailgate. So I was looking at pieces and parts, and I said, what can I do to paint some of these other pieces? Because when I paint the hood and the cowl, I don't know that I want the tailgate in there at that point. It's going to be kind of a little too much for me to deal with. However, I was looking at my little stand here, and this is that filler panel that goes underneath the grill. And I happen to have these two little pieces up on top. So this is going to sit perfectly on top of that, and I can paint that piece. And here's the other cool part about that. This filler piece that goes underneath the tailgate to fill, because it's got a body lift on it. So this piece is designed to fill the gap between that. I'm just going to clamp a couple pieces of like square tubing on here, and so I can hang this out here in space. So it's going to get two birds with one stone. I won't have the tailgate on. I'll just have these two pieces hanging off this one side, and that's going to take care of getting parts out of the way. Because like I talk about, sequence is scored, right? Well, when I'm doing this Bronco, I can't do it all at one time. I can't paint the hood while I'm painting the rest of the vehicle. I can't paint it with the tailgate on because you just can't. There's no way to spray that and be able to open the tailgate and spray it and close the tailgate. It's not going to work. So that's what I've been trying to come up with, is different ways to address some of these smaller issues. But that's kind of the strategy at this point, is to take care of some of these small pieces, and then once they're painted, they can be out of the way. It's going to make it a lot better to do it that way, I think. Let's see. Jonathan, my aunt has a 1905 Oldsmobile, original paint. Her grandfather bought it new. Well, I'll give you $1,000 for it. Wow, 1905 Oldsmobile. You should send me a picture of that. That would be cool. That would be cool to see. 1905. Wow. If you want to send me a picture, here's my email at the bottom of the screen there. JoeDaddy'sGarage@gmail.com. That would be really cool to see that. Let's see. Rodney learned a lot on the rear valance that you installed. About to brave it myself. Awesome. Glad you're here. Okay, so no pictures. He says no pictures. All right. Well, if you ever get one, you can send it to that email. Ray, looks like you have room in that cart for the doors. No, the doors are going to be painted on the vehicle. They're going to be painted on the body. They're going to be mounted because I want the flow. The doors will be on, the fenders will be on, and that way I get positive paint flow all the way across. I'm not guessing as to whether I got, not enough or too much paint, whatever. I'm not taking that chance. I always want everything hung on the vehicle. Along with that, you don't get tape lines, like for clear coat and stuff. The challenge is going to be on these doors. The hinge goes into the door rather than bolt in front of it. It actually goes into the door, so I have to be careful. Here's the thing. Let me give you a little pointer on this. When you're painting something like that, what I'll probably do, if I can pull it off, is try to blow some paint in there before I move into actually painting it. What I mean is, when you have a cavity or something you have to paint around, you tend to try to address that in one way or another. But what happens is, a lot of times you'll be blowing some paint in there, trying to cover that area, and then you come back and you paint, and you've doubled up the material or tripled the material that's in that area because you've already added material there. That's the difficulty in a lot of that stuff. So I have to be kind of careful with how I apply the paint in those areas. But the idea is, at this point, the doors will be mounted, the fenders will be mounted, and the doors, I can swing them all the way open. That's the advantage. I can open them all the way up and spray everywhere inside. There's no restrictions. Paint the whole thing all in one shot, and then I'll probably come up with some sort of I was thinking about this the other day, some sort of a jig device, and just to keep the doors, because I don't want them to rotate in and make contact with the B pillar. I don't want that or any of the seam there. So I may come up with, what I was envisioning was a piece of wood of some sort. It doesn't have to be much, on magnets, and then the doors could have like just a piece of wood on it that stops the movement of the door, and that way I can open it and come back and close it, but it'll just make contact with that piece of wood on the inside of the door that nobody's going to see. It won't matter. So it's kind of like the logistics of it. I have to think about. We got some pics here from Nick that we're going to put up in a minute. So let me go back. So Ray gets it and what I'm talking about. Jonathan, I do paintless dent repair, and body shops give me panels to do push to paint. The rack will help me a ton. Thank you. Yeah. Those things. Having racks like that are really, really good. Doyle asked, "Are you going to paint the inside of the doors first?" Nope. Everything's going to paint at the same time, just like I did Jade. Everything got painted at the same time. In the doors, well, I say that the black part of the door didn't get painted, but the bottom of the doors, the jambs, everything all got painted at the same time. Ray says, "Yeah, the Corvette also has a hinge that goes into a slot on the door." Yeah. Well, this one goes from the outside of the door. I know the Corvette doesn't have an exposed like this does. This has, if I can show you, you've actually got a slot right here that it goes into. So I have to, get some paint in that area. That's the difficulty of it. It's all part of it, I guess. Rodney, I have a hard time painting between the doors and hit the doors and paint run, and the paint runs from too much paint. Yeah, yeah. It's. I could tell you. I mean, I've had issues like that. I've had issues where I've run, not run base, but I've run clear coat, um, and I've said it before. I know. I've said I don't consider myself a painter, even though I paint. I still don't. I know that there's a lot of variables that I don't know well enough to compensate for. So when I get advice from my PPG rep and I see what other people have done, and I kind of flow with that. But um, there's we make mistakes, and you just have to know how to fix them. That's the real thing. You got to know what it takes to fix them. Let me see here. I'm gonna get these pictures that Nick sent me. And we're going to look at those in just a minute. Yeah, Nick says he sent the pics for the fenders for grins in case anyone cares. Brian B. Evening all. Late but made it. Hope all are well. Glad you're here, Brian. Ray says, I see the difference in slot is outside where the Corvette is it's in the inside. Yeah, and that's the difficulty, is trying to get just a little bit of paint inside of there, not blast it all through and end up with a discoloration. I've seen plenty of Broncos pictures of them painted, and it's like, they have to figure out, they have to have done it some way without it causing that problem. Nick, I don't see the paint sample. You said you sent me a paint sample. Yeah, it's not showing up. But let's look at Nick's car. So there's his car. I see an outline of. I'm guessing, I don't know what did they move it up? Did they raise it up? Is that okay? I'm guessing that's what they did. I guess that's the plan. Is it's raising the height of the wheel opening? I'm assuming. And what is going on with the headlight bucket? Are those? What is up with that, Nick? You got to tell me what's going on with that. Are those like plates that are screwed to the car or something? I don't know that I like that. That looks kind of weird. So, okay. And Nick says yes, he raised the flare opening, or raised the flare. Okay. Oh, so now we have the paint sample as well. All right. Nick says they had to cut that up in 3 sections to get it to fit. It's just temporary fixturing. Okay. I'm just kind of baffled at the plates. It looks like plates screwed to the fender and the headlight extension. It looks kind of weird to me. Just saying. Ron Walker says, "Oh, yep." Hold on just a second. Let me get, if I can get this one more picture. If it'll load it, so we get an idea of the color. Maybe. Oh, I've got too many files, it says. Okay. Let me get rid of something. Get rid of this one. Try this one more time. So we have a picture of the color sample for Nick's car. See if it takes it. The little thing's spinning around. There it is. So there's the picture without clear coat. So it looks kind of like a burnt orange from what I'm seeing. That's going to stand out. Okay, Dave Conville, can I ask a Model A question? What carb are you running, the stock Zenith or something else? Are you all familiar with the Marvel Shable aftermarket carb? No, I'm running a stock Zenith. That's all I know. It's the carburetor that was on the car when I started working on it, so that's all I know. I don't know anything about the other brands, so don't know if that's much help, but that's what I'm running. And Nick says it's just there to hold it in place while they're doing bonding. Okay, so are they bonding the headlight buckets to the fender? Is that what you're saying? Like they're doing away with the body lines? Is it all smooth? BDS, I think it's weird if they put screws in it versus a tack weld. Well, they can't tack weld it. The headlight buckets are made out of what we call pot metal, so it's not weldable. It's not something you would weld. It can't be welded like steel. You can't do it. It would just melt. So that's why you can't do that. Pot metal it's a little malleable. You can bend it some, but for the most part, there's no welding. No won't happen. Nick says no. Let me send another pic. Okay, we're gonna find out here. It just looks weird to me, Nick. Just saying. But I'm kind of picky. If you haven't noticed, kind of picky about stuff. I'm not sure why. In the meantime, here's another shot of Robert, some food Robert made. I really shouldn't be saving that pic, but yeah. Oh, somebody's running their hot rod up and down the street or up the road. That is something. We have some new neighbors. Apparently, they celebrate New Year's differently than we do, and a lot of us do. Well, I don't do any fireworks. I'm just cheap and lazy. But apparently, for New Year's, they did a lot of, I don't know, we'll just say shooting. They had a lot of bang bang stuff going on, literally, which is scary. And then a couple weeks ago, I heard what sounded like a pretty healthy vehicle, and it was racing up and down the main street that we live off of. And come to find out through another new neighbor that I talked to yesterday, I thought it was him. He said no, that was the same neighbors who like to shoot guns in the middle of the night on New Year's, and they had a Hellcat Challenger or whatever. Somebody did, and so there were burnouts up and down our street, and then they were out on the main road. Just you could hear them flying. They were moving. Okay. Oh, there we go. Now I get it, Nick. You didn't tell me it was a Shelby nose. Okay, so we're gonna let me get this last picture here from Nick. So y'all can see what we're talking about. This makes more sense now. So it's like a Shelby deal. It's not the pot metal stuff. That makes more sense. Okay. I get it now. Cal Custom. Everybody say Cow Custom. There you go. Ray Buckham says, thanks for sharing, Robert, not literally. I'm not sure what we were talking about there. Busted knuckle, hot glue would work. Yeah, it might. Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's talking about the brisket. Robert, I have a brisket going on a smoker tonight. Not a small one like that one. It's a medium size, a little under 24 inches long. Yeah, that's too bad. Brian, maybe you could ask Iron Man if he knows anything about the Marvel carbs. Aaron says, Robert, in a pellet smoker, I'm going to do one soon since I made my smoker Wi-Fi. Okay. Yeah, he says, yes, it's a pellet smoker. So there we go. Sorry to get off the target here. Nick, the nose piece from another company, and the buckets need to be angled different and the overall width narrowed. Okay. So it is a full custom. I get it. That's cool. Roger, at least they're not revving up on the limiter and practicing launches this time. Yeah. Yeah, they were definitely leaving a mark on the road. I know that much. Robert, that road is not a road. I don't want to be flying down fast. Too many curves and trees close to the road. Yes, that's accurate. Very accurate. Nick, that's why I said I have a lot of fiberglass work being done. It's also kind of sucking, but I think it would be worth it. It might. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the market is for custom stuff like that. I guess it depends if you're going to be just driving it or selling it. So, I don't know. Um, what did I see the other day? We are talking about buying and selling stuff. Oh, here's something I'm looking to do. I've been debating on this for a while now. You know, I have the jig trailer in here, which is I can move that thing. It's not that bad. I can move it by myself. I can pull it out, push it out in the yard, and leave it sit, and it's fine. But it would be nice to have something to move it with. Now, along with that, another dilemma that I run into from time to time is getting vehicles into my what I call a paint booth, because access to that is actually a grass ramp that leads into the back section, dirt ramp, right? Grass. So if I like the Bronco, it took four of us to push that thing in there, me and Roger and my two sons, and so we got it in there, but it was it was a lot, it was an effort. So I was thinking about this. I'm like, what can I do to be able to get something, but if I'm here doing it by myself, to pull something in the paint booth or to push something in the paint booth. So one idea I had was Harbor Freight sells a 2,500 pound electric winch for like an ATV. 2,500 is a pull weight. So if you do, if you can do kind of some geometry, according to Nick, uh, but a rolling Bronco doesn't weigh 2,500 pounds as a pull. It might be 500 pounds. I don't know, but it's not that much. But the thought was I could mount one of those winches in the front floor of the paint booth, roll the cable out, and just hook to whatever's out there and just pull it in. So that's one idea. And that may work. That may be an option. I don't know yet. I'm debating on that. They also have bigger ones. They have 3,500 pound, whatever. But the reality is a rolling load is a lot less than a drag, like a trying to pull something that's stuck in the mud. If it's a rolling mass, it moves easier. So that was one idea. And now the other idea was to get a small tractor. So I've been looking at small tractors, and I really want something. I say small. I want it pretty small, but I was looking at one that had a 3-point hitch on it. The idea is I could use that hitch if I wanted to hook onto this trailer or any other trailer in the yard or whatever. Could hook onto it with that, lift it with a 3-point hitch, and just pull it and move it wherever I wanted. I could also do kind of a tow bar on the front of the tractor. I'm thinking the front, have some sort of a tow bar or push bar that I could uh, move, push the vehicle into the paint booth. So I'm looking at one of those now. The interesting part was I found one that was south of us, and it's an old Kubota diesel, little 3-cylinder diesel, and it's not much bigger than a riding mower, honestly, but it has hydraulics and a 3-point hitch. And I was telling another friend about this, that he buys and sells tractors all the time. Like, he flips them and makes money off these things. He said, "Oh, I've got one I'll give you." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I got this John Deere that I bought." And when we first talked about it, he was like, "It's just a lawnmower or riding tractor type of thing." And I was like, I didn't want to tell him, "Hey, I want this or that situation." So we talked about it the other day, and he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, that's a little like 3-cylinder diesel with a 3-point hitch thing on the back." And I'm like, "What?" He says, "I'll get it for you." I'm like, "Okay." So hopefully he comes through and can pick that up for me, because I think that would be beneficial. Uh, I don't know if it has any options on it or any attachments, but that's the idea. I want to be able to move things around using a tractor, because I have a 0-turn mower. You're not pulling anything with a 0-turn mower. I can tell you that. You're not moving stuff with that. It'll just sit there and spin the wheels all day long. Not going to happen. Okay. Okay. Nick is saying outcome, not value. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I get it. I hope it turns out really nice. I do. That car's going to look sharp. Robert says the worst fiberglass I had to do was a new Baja kit for a bug. That stuff was junk. Yeah. Jonathan, snowblower with tracks and load up weight on it. Yeah, that could work. That could work. Sears Suburban 12 high-low range. That could work. Robert says Kubota BX or Mahindra and others have similar sized for less, like a big riding mower. Yeah, this one I was looking at was a Kubota B 1700, I think, or B 7100, one of the two. Um, not very big, but it would have been right up the alley, right up the alley that I want to go. Jonathan, my grandfather used to drag telephone poles with his Sears. Wow. Okay. Okay. I believe you. I just don't know where we'd find a snowblower in Georgia. That would be the difficulty. Robert, I want one of those tractors with a front end loader and backhoe. Yeah, they sell little tiny ones of those now. They're like you can just play in a sandbox with. They actually they actually make these things that are like a big lawnmower, but have it's crazy some of the pictures I've seen where they have this little tiny seat area, that little backhoe. And you'll wonder, does it do anything? And apparently it does. I think, what is it, the Cricket? There's a tow up behind backhoe deal called a Cricket, I think it is, where it's just on a trailer and you just tow it wherever you want it, leave it hooked to your vehicle, and it's got a backhoe deal on it. Michael, I use a electric winch to pull cars into my shop better than pushing no run car in. I am too old for that. Well, see, that's what I'm thinking is maybe I do both. Maybe I just do both, because one, if I do it with the tractor, I have to have the push bar and I have to have it interact somehow with the vehicle, right, to make it do what I want it to do. With the winch, I can control it. I can say, okay, I'm ready to go. Pull a little bit, turn the wheel, pull a little bit, turn the wheel, get it up in place. I think I say difficulty. The only real problem is going to be anchoring it to the floor, because I don't want it to be anchored. I don't want it anchored permanent. You know what I'm saying? If I'm in the paint booth, I have limited space anyway, and I'm not going to bolt it to the wall. I know that much. That's not going to happen. Um, so if I'm going to anchor it to the floor somehow, to me it has to be removable. because I need to have my footprint in there. If I need to move a stand or something over in that area, I don't need to be snagging on a winch. But I think honestly, the 2,500 pound would probably be enough. I would think anybody. I don't know if you're what size winch you used, but I think that would be probably enough to do it. Robert, you can also put a snatch block at the back of the paint booth, then pull on the cable with the tractor to pull it into the shop. There are in-ground mounts that are flush. That's an idea. And then I could actually have the the tractor in here and pull it through the entry door for the paint booth. That's not a bad idea. Dave Tyson winch with remote. Yeah. Well, that's what the Harbor Freight one. If you were to look it up, uh, they have it's an ATV winch they call it. Um, and they're selling them for like, I don't even know what it is. A Badland um, winch. It's like $80 for the Badland version, and it's got a wireless remote. Now again, I don't know what I need to do to figure out the math on it, but I would think 2,500 pounds would be enough to make something move into the paint booth area. Robert, you could use an in-ground body pulling chain pot that mounts in the floor. That's an option too. And I don't know if those have to be put in like when you're pouring the floor. I don't know. I don't know. But there's some good options. I probably need to research that a little more and see what I could what's available. Nick, I would use a team of huskies. Yeah, husky men, he says. 67 CUDA, I used an eye bolt underneath one of my rolling benches. I use a come along to pull cars in. Well, that's not a bad idea. Um, I still I have to look at it from the paint booth perspective. What I have available because all I have is a wall there. There's no benches in there that are going to cover up that space. And I've run into this before where if I have something on the floor that I'm trying to move a stand or roll something around, I really don't want to get hung up on something. So, Jonathan, you can use wedge anchors. They stay in the floor or wall, and you just remove the bolt when you want. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Robert, that's the same little winch I've looked at putting on my little trailer. Um, if it's heavier, if it's heavier than it can pull, I don't need it. Okay, okay. I had to read that a couple times, but yeah, I get what you're saying, Jeff. Awesome man. Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Glad you're here. Let me see where we're at here. Ray says the tractor is less manual labor. That is true. That is true. As long as there's no hitch, no problem, that comes up with that. Um, I would think that this little winch, like I said, um, they're like $80, 2,500 pounds, um, and I'm assuming it's going to be 12 volt. So that would be the only thing I would have to do is come up with, power it, a battery, which wouldn't that be that hard to do. Nick says use a giant magnet, Wile E. Coyote style. Whoop! There we go. That's not a bad idea, Nick. I'll look into that. Need one of those. I'll just hold the magnet, right? Is that what you're saying? Like the big horseshoe magnet, electromagnet, and I just aim it at like the Bronco and just stand there and let it pull towards me? That would be fun. Okay, so Michael says we have lift studs in the floor. Winch has a plate that goes on the studs. Right, and that works. That works. I know there's some sort of option available, um, but I have to figure out a way to do it that it works, that makes sense. Because I could make a plate that the winch could bolt to, and the plate could have some sort of hook device or something that goes into the concrete, so I don't have any studs sticking up or anything like that. I'll just have to look at what's available for those anchor points. Um, it could even, like Robert's saying, had a big eye bolt. I guess I have to see what the load rating would be on the eye bolt. Because another idea I had was to put two eye bolts in the corners of the paint booth, because you're never pushing something into the corner. I mean, I've never had any, that I can think of in those corners. So if you had two eye bolts in the corners angled, and you had a cable connection between the two, then you could attach to that cable and go out from there with either a come along or a winch, or you could use chains, like use a chain on both those eye bolts, and maybe at that point I have the plate made with some hooks on it that I just hook to the chain, and just use that as a pull point. Nick, yes, you painted a perfect picture. Doyle, the wire cable and snatch block using a tractor to pull it from outside will be close to the same money as that winch. That's true. That is true. Yeah, I would just have to come up with a cable that's long enough to make all that happen. Yeah, I'd have to figure that out. Let's see. Robert, epoxy concrete inserts in the concrete, bolt it down when you need it. Then you can make your own set screws out of it, out of cut off bolts to put in the to keep dirt out when not being used. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Nick, you're not going to overload a shouldered eye bolt with a car for sure. I guess I'd have to look that up. I mean, I probably know what you're talking about, but I probably need to see it. Shouldered, keyword shouldered. Jonathan, when I used to install automated lifts, we only trusted Hilti bolts. I'm willing to bet they have what you want. Yes, I'm sure they do too. Dave Conville, 1905 olds. I'm listening. Yeah, you're listening. You're probably a half hour out of the sequence. He doesn't have any pictures of it though. I was asking for pictures. So now he has a job to do. He's got to get us a picture of the 1905 olds and have it ready for us for the next show. So we'll see how that goes. But hey, we've had some good ideas going here. You know, I need to figure out that the process for getting that pulling stuff in. Jeffrey Wiley would have everything sharp flying at him, but the car would still be sitting there with the rotor sitting in it. Yeah, that's true. It would just be he'd have it like he'd like have a finger on the brake, and the car wouldn't move. And then secretly he'd have a chain tied around a cliff in the back, so it looks like he's not doing anything, and Wiley Cody's going crazy trying to pull the car in. So I don't know where to get those magnets though, Nick. I would have to find a magnet big enough, and then obviously be able to hold it and make it do what I wanted it to do. And then the challenge is getting the vehicle back out, right? because you get it out, you use the same magnet to get it rolling. You know, that could be difficulty difficult. Ray Buckman, Wiley was great. Yes, yes. It's funny. We talk about stuff like that, and you know, I would venture the bulk of us grew up with the Roadrunner and Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd and um, Foghorn Leghorn and all those characters, right? And Tom and Jerry and all that stuff. And uh, they now they would complain about, oh, they're too violent, and or there's this and that and the other. And I don't think any of us were affected negatively by a cartoon that was depicting a roadrunner jumping off or flying off a cliff or whatever. Uh, you could still watch those and laugh and have a good time with those. But one thing is really amazing, and if you're into this at all, like our kids all performed in concert bands, right? They were musicians. They played in the bands. And if you ever go to one of those performances, if your kids have ever done that, you know what I'm talking about. Usually, it's pretty impressive. So you learn to appreciate that kind of music, the the, the Beethoven and Bach and whatever. Um, but a lot of us, I think, forget that when we see those old cartoons with Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner and all those things, that they used that same kind of music. They used orchestras to create the music for those cartoons. And if you sit back now and you just and if the cartoon were on and you just not look at the cartoon and you listen to that music, it's pretty amazing. It is. Just a perspective here. Just a perspective. As kids, we didn't realize that. We were engrossed by the drama, and the music was part of that. But now, you listen to that music, it's like, wow, that's an incredible piece of music that they made just for a cartoon, and that's the truth. It's really really interesting stuff that they used to do back then. Nick says the challenge is the Roadrunner. Yes. Ed says the Acme Company for the magnet. Yeah, there you go. And Nick says, especially if you're working on one. Yes. Jonathan, he says, haha, my parents rode in that Oldsmobile car on my aunt's wedding day. My father chased a horse that broke free, pulling a carriage, and he thought it was going to blow up. That would be, yeah. I couldn't imagine what the top speed on a 1905 Oldsmobile would be. Michael, I drop a 2x8 over the studs, less of a tripping hazard. What were we? Oh, okay. So your comment was up there further. Where did I lost it? It says we have lift studs in the floor. Winch has a plate that goes on the studs. Okay. 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 I see what you're saying. Nick, love Looney Tunes. My favorite episode is Daddy Duck and Daffy Duck, not Daddy, Daffy Duck, and Bugs when they broke into the treasure cave and shrunk Daffy down. I'm rich. I'm rich. Okay. I think when I think of Bugs Bunny, I think of him as the when he does the concert and expecting the music, where he takes over the concert or the opera singer, like they have the orchestra playing, and he's got the glove going, and the opera singer's like hitting a note, and he just keeps the glove going, and like he takes his hand out of the glove, and the glove is floating in there, it keeps moving, and the guy's singing and singing, and Bugs is eating a carrot, and the orchestra's playing, and that one seems to stand out in my mind. Donnie, did you give an update on that rusty Mustang? I came in late. No, no updates on the Mustang. I will not likely be working on the Mustang until the Bronco is finished. I have to focus on the Bronco, so I can't bounce back and forth. I have to get the Bronco done. I have about 3 weeks. I have about 3 weeks to get the Bronco in paint, and I'm hoping there's no issues. Not only do I have to get it in paint, but I also have to do the bed liner on the inside of the vehicle. So a lot has to happen in the next 3 weeks. Nick says, yeah, and his Adam's apple is training. Yes. He's like pulling his collar. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. Along with that, I think my voice itself is done. I can't put out much more. It's starting to get rough feeling. So I'm going to call it a night. It's been fun. We've had some good conversation, some good input ideas on the winch versus tractor thoughts. So, um, wait, Doyle says the bunny of Seville where Bugs is growing Elmer Fudd's hair into flowers, classical music. Yes. And Nick says Barry is turning into Gas Monkey Garage, going to lose the shop. I hope not. I hope not. But I do have to get stuff done. Anyway, so it's been fun. We'll be back next month. Next month. Yeah, because this month is going to be over before Monday gets here. But I'll be back next Monday at 7 o'clock. And hopefully we have some more things to talk about. I'm going to try to have some sort of video out this week. It'll probably be painting the hood and the cowl and windshield frame and a few other pieces on the Bronco. But that's going to be it for tonight. And where are we at here? So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.